Hi, Jim.
Hi, David.
Been a wonderful day today. Tired.
It has.
I took my kid to the farm today.
Yeah, so you went to the pumpkin patch thing, right?
The pumpkin patch thing. Yep. And I froze my ass off because it was like 48 degrees, and I wore what Duluth Trading Company calls a shirt jack, which is very warm. But the problem was I hadn't eaten properly this morning. So we did the hay ride, and I'm just like shivering in the wind. So the first thing I did as I got off there is I ran to the place where you could get a hamburger and had some like warm food.
Yes. I tried to warn you that most people think that you don't have to have the right calories or liquids for.
No, I thought I had eaten better this morning, and then when we got there, I was like thinking about it as getting out of the car. I was like, hungry. Oh crap! Like I didn't eat the right shit. So
what does burning calories do? Creates heat internally. You it up, which is why us chubby folks enjoy a good warm day.
Anyway, moving on.
We're always warm. All right.
So, I guess I should go first for what's new here. I have it on my notes that I will go first. Somewhere on my desk is this new Boss product. The enclosure is white and orange, and it says Chromatic Tuner TU3. So nobody freak out. I'm not killing Year of No Gear here or anything like that. This is a tuner. It's not a Tuma. It's a tuner. And
little Tuma.
Yeah. So the reason why I bought a tuner was not just so I could have a pedal tuner laying around. I have the Helix. The Helix got a built-in tuner. I have 2 clip-on tuners, and then of course I have my tuner in my DAW, which is what I usually use because basically what I do around the house most of the time is tracked anyway. But I today went to go tune up. I actually changed the strings on my my Indonesian S500, and when I switched all the strings out and I tuned it up using the Helix, I was like, wait a minute, this thing's still out of tune. Like, what the hell's going on here? So then I threw one of my clip-on tuners, and it said it was out, and I tuned to that, and then I threw it into the DAW because it still sounded out, and it turned out that was the only thing that was working properly. And my 2 clip-on tuners, they're okay. Like they get close enough, but I just don't think that they're, where I want them to be. And the Helix tuner, it's the only gripe that you will see in the Helix users group, like consistently, is people like the tuner sucks. I don't think the tuner's terrible. I think what people are expecting out of it is it to be like the best tuner on earth. And years ago I had the Line 6 Flextone 3XL. It had a tuner built into it. The tuner on that was great. The tuner on this is shit in comparison on the Helix. So I have a TU3 now. After just using it to tune up my guitars this afternoon, it is without a doubt the best tuner I've ever used outside of a strobe tuner.
Yep.
Can't go wrong. TU3.
There's a reason that. Yeah, there is a reason. First of all, I've been using the TU since I believe the TU came out, at least to the masses, and I think that was in the 90s. And I've had a TU2 since 2001, 2000, and I've had a TU3 now for years. And I only bought the TU3 because my TU2 died, not because I wanted some fancy new thing that TU3 does. So to be honest with you.
Well,
I've never had a problem seeing it on stage, regardless of the amount of sunlight. We talked about that last podcast about sunlight and everything else. Never had a problem seeing it. Never had a problem, with it being.
The TU1, if I recall, I'm just going back in history here. The TU1 was a little box thing, right? That you had like a flip cover on it. Yeah, I've used those before. The TU2 I've used a couple of times. I had a Polytune, and that's what I've used on my board for probably the last 5 years. Mm-hmm. And my Polytune got sold when I got my Helix. So I'm like, oh, the Helix is going to have a tuner in it.
Right.
And now I'm like, fuck, the Helix has a tuner in it, and it sucks.
Yeah. And I have not been ever impressed with any of the built-in tuners of amplifiers or special effects units. So I'm not really surprised, although I think that the folks at Line 6 could do a better job, because that's got to be a software.
Yeah, when I show you, well, so apparently it was better when it first came out, but people were bitching, so they actually made some modifications to it, and most people, by all accounts, say now that it's worse. That actually it was probably too accurate to begin with. So the problem is accuracy versus speed, and that's where I think Boss gets it so right. Is that when you use the Boss Chromatic Tuner, it will immediately tell you what pitch you're at, and it reacts almost in real time to you turning the tuning keys. Whereas the Helix stutters. It's weird. Like you'll hit a note and it'll say it's this, and then you'll turn the key and then it'll say it's on pitch. You'll hit the same note again and then it's off. And you're like, what the hell? And it's because the display on the Helix doesn't match like in real time to what you're doing very well, and it's almost too sensitive.
Yeah.
I would laugh if the reason the Helix tuner sucks is because they don't put a low pass filter on it.
I don't know. I don't know if it's so you know that the tuning is because it's detecting, and then it does the analysis of the wave, and then it says okay.
Yeah, but so the analysis of the wave can get really fucked up when you start adding in all these other harmonics. And so if you get everything below, most of your guitar frequencies, like your fundamentals, are going to be around 400 hertz. So if you cut everything off above 1,000, 1K, and just drop that stuff to the floor, the tuner should work better in general. Because it's not going to have to decipher all these odd order harmonics and even order harmonics that are, disposed, that are, going through the tuner normally.
Right.
Which is what makes it difficult. And just my experience with MIDI guitar tells me that it shouldn't be as big an issue on the treble strings to detect pitch, but on the lower strings where the frequencies are so far apart, like the actual beats are farther apart to the machine, it's harder to decipher. I think the Helix does an equally shitty job on the treble strings as the bass strings. So
that's there's not much excuse for that. That's what I was getting at. So when the device is monitoring a wave, typically a low frequency takes longer to decipher than a high frequency.
Correct.
And I'm wondering if what they're doing is not taking a big enough sample. I'm not sure, because like you said, if it's too fast, that could be a problem.
Well, let's face it. Line 6 has never put out a standalone tuner.
Plus, no, it hasn't. The initial attack, you see it in every tuner. You see the initial attack of the pick on the strings. That creates a whole set of its own problems, making it look sharp.
Personally, my suspect thing that's going on over there is that they don't have very good pitch detection software in general. Mm-hmm. And so they don't have the code base to build a proper tuner. And the reason why I say that is they don't have any polyphonic effects like pitch shifting or anything in their stuff that works really well. The tracking is usually pretty shitty. And they've always written it off to the fact, well, these effects didn't track well, when they were analog effects or whatever. And in the case of the digital ones, it's like, well, these are not, they just make everything monophonic, or they do weird stuff like that. And whereas other manufacturers, trying to think like Eventide, their stuff tracks pretty well, and it can do, polyphony and all that. So I don't know. I don't buy what they're saying. I think they probably, Yamaha needs to invest some money in the company and get themselves a good engineer to get them up to speed with that stuff. Because it just sounds like they're kind of like behind the times. So I don't know. Line 6, you want to chime in? Feel free to shoot me an email. I'd be more than willing to talk to you about it.
Now I know that Wampler has talked. He's a real stickler about tuning, and I want to say, I could be remembering wrong, but I want to say a couple months ago I heard him hinting to the fact that he might be developing a tuner.
I hope so. He's got tough shit to fill though, with the TU3 being that good for $99.
Yeah, there's no question about that. I think the TU2 used to have like a strobe mode.
Well, I know the 3 does.
Yeah. Oh, so the 3 does too. Okay, I thought so.
Yeah.
I don't use it.
I found the strobe mode to be, it was easier to use the regular mode, to be honest with you, because I used the strobe mode when I was using my Polytune all the time.
Polytune, I always use the strobe mode.
Yeah, and I had my guitar instructor had one of the first like Peterson Strobo stomp things,
right?
And so I was used to that. I have the app on my phone, and actually, believe it or not, that's what I'd been using for a tuner most of the time, which is why this right here is a godsend. Because now I don't have to worry about my phone microphone picking up other shit in the room. Or
that's what I was going to say. That's been the only problem.
Abysmal.
You're like the acoustic guitarist. It's like, shh. I'm trying to tune my guitar.
Well, I can do a decent job of tuning my ear to the point where, like, as long as I have a good reference pitch, nobody's going to know the difference. But at this point, it's just I need to be able to just tune up and not worry about it. So if that makes me break Year of No Gear, and you guys all think that that's like, oh, he failed, screw you.
Yeah, no, that's a tuner is not a piece of tone gear.
Speaking of breaking Year of No Gear. Let's talk about my pickup mule for a minute.
Well, let's talk about my pickup mule for a second.
Oh, did you get one yet?
I get to go first. We got to take turns here, pal.
Did you? No, you didn't get one though.
Well, I didn't. All right, so I put money down so that it's not gone.
Yeah, but that's not your pickup mule.
Well,
that's it. That's your.
It's going to be for my.
That's your new guitar that you don't have yet.
Oh, let's not be too specific. What? You mean I've broken my 3 months of no gear?
No, you're right. No, you're like 3 days. Shit. 3 months. Come
on. It's been a month.
It's been a couple weeks since you've had some money in your pocket.
So I put money down. Yeah. I put money down. I couldn't let it go. Unfortunately, I had an unforeseen expense, so that kind of put me off a little bit. But
shit happens.
I had to buy a windshield for my car.
Hey, I still haven't gotten around to fixing my fucking my dishwasher that blew up and caught fire.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I think I would have done that by now. But anyway, so I took what I could, and I put down money, most of it, on a 2008 Fender Strat standard. Now this is, believe it or not, this will be my single coil pickup mule.
Is that technically a Mexican standard Strat?
This is a Mexican standard.
Yeah, technically. Yeah, okay.
Technically. Even though they call it, I mean, at some point they removed, I think that's relatively recent, right? That they removed the standard.
That was this year. Yeah.
From America.
That
right?
was this year.
America.
That was this year.
So there used to be American standard and Mexican standard. This is a Mexican standard.
Okay.
2008, that is in, like, it's like the person had it in there.
Yeah. It was obviously case kept, and like they never played it.
The plastic was still peeling away from the pick guard, and there's no pick scratches. There's nothing on the back, no buckle rash, no T-shirt rash.
Is it possible this was a collector's piece? Because I know people buy them and like just stick them up thinking they're going to be worth something.
That's what I'm thinking. And they put it in a tweed case.
Yeah,
this has got a rectangular tweed case, which is not an inexpensive add-on, and for $469.
Yeah,
$469.
Is it a G&B case company case, or is it an aftermarket? I think it's G&B.
I can't say because of the fact that it's still. I didn't get to see the case.
Oh, okay.
I just know
all right.
It's a standard. Tweed
like tweed.
Case.
All right.
You're probably right.
Yeah, I mean, it could be aftermarket. It could be somebody who bought it with another Fender.
All I know is the guy that the representative from Guitar Center came down and said it's probably just one of those molded cases. I'm like, yeah, it's probably a piece of. He came back to me and he goes, Jim, this is a really nice tweed case. It's not one of your cheap,
the case is worth more than the guitar.
Yeah, the case. Well, let's see, a Mexican standard back then would have gone for what, $700? 600.
I would think that would be around the 650 mark.
Yep. So I'm getting it for $469 with the tweed case.
Not bad.
I can't complain.
Not bad.
Nope.
It looks good too. I'll be honest with you. I think the Is it candy apple red with
candy apple red.
Yeah.
There's a close up in the group.
Looks a
of
bit
it.
like this. Yeah.
That is
I got my Wampler Pinnacle Deluxe is sitting on the table here next to me.
It would look so good with a Pinnacle Deluxe.
It's coming your way eventually. I do intend to send this to you. I have literally.
Believe it or not, I have the Boss. The
Blues
Wampler
driver
modified,
but boxed up, right? It's boxed up and everything.
Boxed up with your address on it. I just got to get it to.
Well, at the very minimum, I'll mail you this guy because I've been talking about doing this since the show started, and then I'll get the Pinnacle to you later. So anyway, yeah, I haven't had a chance to do a demo with that yet. We're going to. It's coming. It's just a matter of time. I got to get my Van Halen chops up before I can do that. So I was experimenting the other day, trying to get my whammy bar and tapping antics back in order, but I haven't played Van Halen tunes in a very long time. But yeah, so you're looking at the Strat. Do you want to tell the listeners about our conversation this evening, the back and forth?
Oh yeah.
So Jim doesn't have. But bear in mind, Jim's got this guitar on layaway right now. He doesn't actually have this guitar in his possession.
I've played it all of like 3.5 minutes, but I did love the feel of the neck, and it's light, it's super light, and which is obviously a big plus. It's about the same as my CE. But our conversation went. I said, "Well, I was looking at the string tree, and I was like, well, maybe I'll get the better string trees.
The roller string trees, not the better ones. The Rolls Royce of string trees.
The Rolls Royce, yeah. Well, they're not that expensive. They're Rolls Royces, but they're like $20. I mean, but the thing is that for the two of them. But the thing is that then David goes, well, you don't need those if we're going to get locking tuners that are staggered locking tuners.
Yeah, you shouldn't. I mean, actually, as I look at my S500 here, it does have a string tree, but it's a Tusk string tree. And I am using it, but it's noticeably lower profile than what you would typically see. Yeah. So I think it's just there for looks, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't know. Now, this thing that Jason Fuzzmonger showed us in the group, the Liberator from Seymour Duncan.
Yep.
Now, is that something you'd use for a Strat? Could we still use that?
Well, it's 500K. So your typical Strat pots are 250. But if you wanted to, you could put one of those in there. I mean, all it's just going to do is open up the treble a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
The question was, so that thing is probably more, I thought it was more Gibson type thing.
Yeah, well, Seymour Duncan wants you to put 500K pots in for anything.
Everything.
They just don't care. True. So, personally, I outfitted my Strat with 500K at one point, and then I went back to 250 because I felt like I was actually getting too much treble.
Yeah.
Your mileage may vary. So, I mean, everybody likes their electronics a certain way. So, I mean, if you could live with a 500K volume pot, then go for it. Or use it as one of the tone pots. And you'll never use it anyway. You know what I mean? So, most people don't really use their tone pots on a Strat. Maybe I'm talking out my ass. That's why I like the G&L design, because you get, a bass control and a treble control instead of a tone control.
Yeah. I just want to make it so that when we're swatching these things out, it's just easier to do.
Yeah, I mean, you can do the same thing with the alligator clips, which is why I'm like, I don't even know if it's necessary. I haven't decided what I'm doing yet. I may buy one of those yet. It depends. And that really depends on the fact that I may be putting some money into parts on this Ibanez when it comes in.
So, all right. So one more thing before you get to that. Our last podcast.
Yeah.
You had mentioned it should have been clapped.
Yeah.
We have somebody that said hashtag should have been clapped, and
yeah, it should have been clapped. Was that the words heard around the world?
Yeah, John Osborne put that in there. I thought that was kind of funny. Although, I mean, obviously nobody's saying that they want clapped.
Absolutely not.
In our mouths.
In fact, I said it on the episode. I said, look, nobody really wants to see anybody die.
No.
But at the same time, and yes, I'm winking and laughing about this, if I had a choice.
Right. But it really should. I mean, it's a terrible thing. That's like the whole Big Bopper thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That was a seat that who was it that wasn't supposed to be on there? Was it Valens? Valens wasn't supposed to be on there.
I think so. Well, it was supposed to be for the Holly or Buddy Holly's band.
Right.
They were supposed to take
yeah.
the plane, and his two bandmates the Crickets gave up their seat for Richie Valens and the Big Bopper, so they ended up dying in the plane crash.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a horrible thing to think about.
We lost a lot of very, very talented people. And back to funny stuff. Eric Bailey put a picture of Willie Nelson saying, I think youngsters need to start thinking about the kind of world they're going to leave for me and Keith Richards.
Didn't we lose a Jennings in that plane crash too?
I thought we did. Did we lose? Was it Waylon?
I think so. I'm Googling.
Maybe he's the one that gave up the seat. I remember that somebody gave up their seat for.
Yeah, it might have been that because
Richie Valens.
Like I'm just thinking no, because he was still active in 2000, so I don't think if he did pass, it was. Yeah, he died at age 64 in 2002. So why am I thinking there was somebody else in that plane?
It was Dion that was supposed to be on that seat. So
yeah.
Valens and Dion flipped a coin for the seat.
Right. And
Jennings, no mention is made of. So it was a thing that no mention is made of Jennings or else being invited on the plane. So he wasn't really supposed to be on it.
Yeah,
because Jennings was supposed to be Waylon Jennings on the plane, according to a few people.
Yeah, there's been a lot of discussion about that over the years. I don't think that the events that night are really like set in stone. I know about the coin flip thing, but I'm not sure because I've heard very varying stories about that. Like the coin flip was for Waylon Jennings' seat or whatever, and there's a whole thing on that. Wow, what a different world it would have been if Waylon Jennings had got on that plane. I mean, you talk about a guy that was, if not in the limelight, behind everybody in the limelight, for a very long time, involved with Willie Nelson and a ton of other people.
Well, thinking about that, the number of people who we've lost in plane crashes like that,
dude.
And helicopters. We've got Leonard Skinner.
Yeah, but it's because they keep hiring these amateur pilots because they want cheap labor to get from place to place, and they hire amateur pilots. Look at the guy that killed Stevie Ray. I mean, he was not licensed to fly at night.
We got one that a lot of people don't talk about, but an incredible acoustic guitar player and songwriter, Jim Croce.
Yeah.
He never got past the runway. And the pilot didn't get over the pecan trees or the peach trees.
John Denver. There's Leonard Skinner.
But John Denver, another one that wasn't supposed to be flying that plane. He was not supposed to be flying that plane. As a matter of fact, he'd had too many DWIs. He wasn't supposed to be flying at all.
Yeah, that was just a joyride too, from my understanding. I don't think there was like a trip to get somewhere.
My cube mate at work was literally one of the people that was on the rescue mission for that, and they never did. During his time in the rescue mission, they didn't find him.
Yeah, I'm sure there's been others over the years
obviously
too.
Later, yeah.
You don't hear about many people dying from tour bus accidents, except for the guy from Metallica, Cliff Burton.
Well, I can name two more. There was Reba McEntire's bus, and
yeah.
Who's the one that come up, baby? Do that come up, beep.
Miami Sound Machine.
Yeah.
I haven't heard about that one.
That's why they had to take a break. She couldn't.
Oh, that's right. Because she had that terrible accident, and then she had to take time off, and that was the whole thing too. Of course, we've had lots of non-fatal bus accidents and stuff. We had the guy in Def Leppard lost an arm.
Well, that was a car accident. He was drunk driving.
Oh, I thought I thought he stuck his arm out of the tour bus.
Nope, he was driving. No, that's a funny story.
That's the story I've been told in various places.
That'd be like The Simpsons. I remember one when Bart goes, the teacher was saying, don't stick your arm out the window or you might lose an arm. And Bart puts his arm in his shirt and he says, I was that boy.
Yeah, so it was a car accident. I never looked it up. It was never important to me. Car accident with Miriam Berenson in the English countryside.
Yep. He was driving his Ferrari or something.
Corvette C4.
Corvette, yeah. And he wrecked it. They were able to reattach the arm, but they had to remove it.
Yeah, because it became infected. And
yeah, sad story.
Well, he overcame it.
Oh,
holy shit, did he?
I watched him do a solo. Obviously, he has some help from electronics, but I watched him do a drum solo a few weeks ago, and right here in Virginia Beach.
Just to be able to figure that out. I mean, it's not even just the fact that like he had to compensate for it and come up with a different style of drumming. Like, everybody's done that at some point. But he like came up with this electronic wizardry to make it all work and be able to play some of the older tunes too, which is pretty impressive. Because that was right before their biggest record, the one with Pour Some Sugar on Me and all that stuff. So
speaking of that, Jason Newsted, I know we talked about him last week. He had to relearn how to play bass because of his arm. He got his arm was pulled out of its socket.
Yeah, I always wonder
way of feeling, and
I always wonder. You hear about these guys who have to relearn the instrument, and like they have so much intuitive knowledge of music at that point because they've done it for so long and they've worked really hard to make sure their timing stuff. Relearning the actual musculature of moving and stuff is probably not as hard as getting all that timing and stuff down.
Right. Yeah, because you're telling all kinds of new nerves that you weren't talking to before,
right,
to do a job. It's a scary thing. I've always been very protective of myself in that respect, just because I can't imagine doing that. I tore my finger up when I was a kid, but luckily it was all my right hand. Most of my right hand has been eaten up from here to here. Through this part, but luckily I don't fret with that hand. But I have a heck of a time finger picking as a result.
So let's switch gears.
Let's go to your mule.
Can we talk about Evil Bay? That could be let's talk about
Evil Bay.
Okay.
Let's begin with Evil Bay
and
the pig in a poke.
Yes. So Evil Bay, for those of you that are not aware, is a slang term for eBay that I like. It has evil inside. And when you go to Evil Bay and you buy something, typically you're going to pay with PayPal, right? Or you can pay with a credit card. The guitar that I purchased, and I talked about it on the last episode, I received a message actually the following morning from the seller saying, basically, can we please process a payment in a different method other than PayPal? Because it's going to take me time to get the money out of my PayPal account. And my response was basically, I've already paid. And I paid through eBay using my credit card, which at the time I thought I had paid with PayPal, but I went and I looked and found out that I just paid with, my credit card through there. And, so on eBay side, I get seller protection and all, or buyer protection and all that. And it basically goes through PayPal. I just don't see the transaction ever hit my PayPal account, which is fine. I don't care. I'm paying for the item, right? He listed this with these options to pay. And now he's telling me, I don't want you to use PayPal. Listen, first off, you have to use PayPal or some form of PayPal or approved payment method through eBay. And if you don't, you're not going to get any seller protection. So at this point, I'm like, the hell, man? Like, seriously? So I just basically said, tough. There's nothing I can do about it. It's already been paid. I did tell him, like, you can call PayPal and you can usually get the hold lifted early once you can prove that I've actually got the guitar in my possession. And I said, I'll do whatever you need to make sure that happens. Which is, in my opinion, going above and beyond the Call of Duty. There's no expectation when you buy or sell on eBay that that's going to happen. So I'm a nice guy. I'll take care of him. Right. The guy's only got a couple of sales on eBay, which tells me he's a noob. I knew that going into this, and I figured there was going to be a little bit of, I don't know how to do this. So anyway, he shipped right away, which was fantastic. Like next day, the guitar is in the mail. And he actually sent me the message after he put the guitar in the mail, which makes me wonder, it's like, well, I've already processed the payment and I'm not backing out at that point. There actually is, from what I can tell, there's no real way to back out of the payment since I didn't use PayPal and I can't cancel a pending transaction. So, anyway, long story short, I'm looking at the pictures. I was going to post some pictures in the group. And just as I was about to post a picture, I see down in the lower corner of one of the photographs, I can see the nut. And the pads for the nut are missing. Now, I didn't panic at first because I'm going, all right, so the pads are missing. That's going to be like $5 a pad or $3 a pad. And I went to look. No, Ibanez replacement parts, $10 a pad. Okay. And then the screws are an additional $7 or $8. So you're talking $38 for pads and screws for this thing. Now, I knew the tremolo bar was missing from the pictures. I'm not expecting that to show up. Probably half the guitars that have a trem system don't show up with a tremolo bar anyway. So I already had Googled around and I found some compatible replacements for around $15. If I want the actual Ibanez arm, I'm going to pay through the nose. It's going to be about $40 because you have to buy the actual assembly that installs into the bridge. They actually revised this bridge and they came out with a version 1.1 of the trem arm assembly with a new trem arm. So you can do that, or you can install Floyd Rose compatible unit because it's basically the same hole size and all that, which may be the way I end up going. But I kind of went full on panic mode because I'm like, why in the hell? I spent like $250 something on this guitar, and now I'm going to have to drop, almost $100 in parts. Basically, is the way I'm looking at it. It's like $40 for the nut stuff, and then $30 to $40 for a trem arm if I redo the assembly. So I started to panic a little bit. I got really ticked off at it, and I was like, you know what? When this guitar shows up, if the parts aren't in the bag, I'm just going to ship it back to the guy and tell him to go fuck himself. And I'm still kind of leery about it, but I talked to Pat at Good Time Music. He says he can help me out, and he can probably get me replacement parts for it. They got a bin in the back for not a whole lot of money, like $15 or something. So I'm like, all right, that's fantastic. Now, if that works out, this is the pickup mule for the show, and I'll just move on. And I'm tired of saying pickup mule too. We need to come up with some other term, like pickup monstrosity or I don't know. But this led me on a really interesting excursion yesterday. I went out at 11 o'clock in the morning. Actually, it would have been earlier than that. I left at 10. I ate breakfast. Then I went to the store at 11. I was at Sam Ash at 11 o'clock when they opened. And I was at Guitar Center, one of the Guitar Centers at noon. Okay. And then I went to Good Time Music afterwards, and I was there for 4 or 5 hours. And because, it's the community center. Everybody goes there and they just hang out and talk and
yeah,
it's fine. So, when I went into, Sam Ash, I saw two RGs. They have this thing, RGA now, which is basically the RG with a contoured body. And so I played two of those. I didn't really think much of them. They were kind of pricey for what they were. I went over to Guitar Center. I played an RGSA. I think it's an RGSA. And well, anyway, so it's got a maple top and an ash body. Of course, if you've seen the RG body, it's pretty thick. That guitar probably weighed upwards of 12 pounds. It's one of the heaviest guitars I've ever taken off the rack, next to a Jim Root. I guess it was a Jazzmaster that Fender puts out. That's the heaviest guitar I've had in my hands. So now after I picked that one up at Guitar Center, when I went to Good Time, I picked theirs up. They have one that's slightly less weight, but it's still probably 9 pounds. It's just ridiculous for any Strat style guitar to be that heavy. Oh, Jim.
Sorry. I wasn't muted.
Do I need to get you some Beano? Wait for it. Wait for it. Oh, I think Jim muted us. All right.
I did. I muted it that time.
He's adjusting his microphone in the podcast, and it's like, it was just absurd. It was great. I love it. Jim,
I didn't realize that thing would come through. I usually mute myself while I'm not talking.
You didn't get ice from the ice machine. You're not getting a slushy. It's fine.
I was, I didn't fart or take you to the bathroom. So
not yet.
Not yet. I'm working on it.
Yeah, there's always room.
There's always room for Jello.
Hold my beer.
So, I went to Guitar Center yesterday. First of all, I don't want to call him a pickup mule either. I kind of want to call it just a guitar for pickup.
It's a pickup apparatus.
It's just a like a parts guitar first.
It's a Hulk.
Each time, you're just it's your what do you call it when you're just trying new things out in it. It's
people in the group suggest a name for what these things will be called.
Yeah, I can't come up with anything good, but I don't like the term mule because it kind of makes it gives it a negative connotation.
Yeah, I mean, I fully intend on keeping mine after this and either using it for the same process or I'm going to just play it.
This one I'm going to keep at the end of all this. I'll keep it, but it's for changing out the single coils because I don't really have anything that I want to change single coils out in. And I imagine, because I never did like standard Fender, I mean, it's a possibility, but I never really did like standard Fender single coil pickups.
Did you get a chance to play the Legacy?
60s. Oh, so yeah, that was what I was getting at. So I got there and the Legacy had sold like an hour before I got there.
That's not surprising. That's not surprising.
Yeah. No.
It only takes one guy.
There are a few nice guitars still there. There's a modern player, although I wasn't crazy. It does have pickup rings, but when I say that thing's a modern player, it's a player. I mean, that thing has been played, and nothing wrong with it as far as that goes. It played really nice. Only $379. But one, it's the modern player when they were still making them in China.
Yeah.
I think they've moved them into...
the modern player was made in China? Squier or Fender?
No, it's a Fender.
I don't think Fender has ever made anything in China. Yeah, Squier has made stuff in China.
Let me put it to you this way. Either that or somebody swapped that. That's probably why it's so cheap. Yeah. Somebody swapped that neck out.
Or they just put the water slide logo on to make it look like it says Fender, the decal.
Yeah, because that thing is definitely.
Send me a picture. I'll verify.
Yeah, it's hard because I should get a picture in person, because I put that thing through with the ringer. It was all right. I was okay with it. It just didn't really come across to me as one that I really wanted to get. Anytime a guitar, a Fender like that is heavier than a Les Paul, I'm not really.
Is that on the back of the headstock?
You can see on the back of the headstock, you can see the CE right across the back, plain as day.
Oh, well, that just means it's certified for export. That's what CE means.
Yeah, but the C and the serial number, you can't see it.
Oh, no, I can't see the serial number. Well, I don't know that necessarily. Yeah,
I think the serial numbers for the Mexicans all start with M. I think the Americans start with they don't start with A, they're with D.
This might be a counterfeit guitar. I'm not. I can't honestly say.
It's the right guitar, wrong neck.
Yeah, but it won't see Fender on it. Then they would have had to modify the logo.
True.
And it's not that that's not done. Believe me, people definitely do it all the time. In fact. I would be lying if I said I didn't know people who are like, oh, yeah, I've done it before.
Well, maybe somebody in the group can tell us if the serial numbers that start with C, I think it's CS or C. Yeah, I want to say it started with a CS. Because the first thing I do is flip the neck, look at the back, and look at the serial number. And if I see a C in there, I typically go,
well, C is collector series. It's C with the 6 digits afterwards. They consider that their collector series. I'm looking at the serial number decoder right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So C is not China on that in that case.
All right. So that's a collector series?
Yeah, then that makes sense.
Then
Honestly, I don't know. The only time I ever look up the serial number is like right before I'm about to buy it. I'll Google it and find out the pedigree. Because in all honesty, you know, even if it was a counterfeit guitar, like that just means I'm going to pay less for it. If I've already decided up to that point, I'm just going to, you know, argue for less money. I got to play something that was super, super cool.
Right.
That you've never played before, Jim, and I know you've never played it before because it's one of a kind. So at Good Time Music, hanging in their used gear was a Stratocaster with a flat black nitrocellulose finish, black pickguard, black Floyd Rose trem, a Frankenstein humbucker, slanted in the pickguard, right, just ever so slightly.
Yep.
With a EVH style neck with a Fender headstock, right? And I picked it up off the rack and I was playing around with it. And there was a guy who's actually standing there talking to Pat when I'd come in. And it turns out he made the guitar, right?
Oh.
So he's got his hanging there on consignment. And honestly, if it weren't Year of No Gear, that would be hanging in my bedroom right now because it was one of the coolest guitars I've ever put my hands on.
Wow.
Played really well. The Floyd Rose was a Shaler, so it was, you know, it was a German-made Floyd. It had, you know, it actually he put a trem block in it so you couldn't pull up. It reminded me of some of the like real deal Charvels I played from like the mid 80s. You don't see them too often anymore, but I used to see them more often. And I'd always wanted one. I could never afford them. They were really expensive when I'd see them around. And I know they're way more expensive now than they were back then. But it was a killer guitar. The guy told me, he said, I made that guitar. He's like, the neck is not a prefab. He's like, I made the neck myself. He could tell me all the specs. He's a compound radius. He copied the neck curve from, one of the PV Wolfgangs, and it's asymmetrical. And, I don't know, maybe it was a Fender Wolfgang. I don't know, but it's asymmetrical. And then he, you know, obviously sourced the pickups from Seymour Duncan and like everything else about it was homemade, including the pickguard.
Where was this?
This was at Good Time Music. It won't be on their site.
Oh,
it's a used guitar. So.
Oh, they don't put their used stuff on their site?
No, not usually. Well, I mean, they have a Reverb store, but I don't think that's going to be listed on Reverb. So this guy's selling on consignment, and I talked to him because I said, dude, you found me at the worst possible time because he was actually there to pick it up. He was going to take it home. And he's like, I build too many guitars. He's like, I have them hanging all over the house and like they're all in cases and stuff. And he's like, I just need to get rid of a couple of them. And he's like, I decided that this one needs to move on. And
right.
but he gave me his number and he said, when your No Gear is up, he's like, I'll probably still have this guitar. Give me a call. So
oh, nice.
Or if not, he'll make me one. So I was super excited. I think that's a very, very cool guitar. The guy knows his shit. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah,
it's one of the best hand built guitars that I've, you know, laid hands on from a no name builder. So I don't know what he does for a living. I think he puts in floors or something. So he's a carpenter, but he knows his shit as far as building a guitar goes.
Yeah,
I was really impressed. It takes a lot to impress me. So.
Well, as you can see, I don't know Strats as well as, you know, Fenders have always been the one that the brand that I've always been weakest with, only because I don't know, there have been so many permutations with them. It's just hard for me to keep track of. 1 minute you're looking at a modern player, and it's here, and the next minute it's there, and
we've joked about this at the shop. At Good Time that like at some point Fender has made one of their guitars twice under different model numbers, under different model names. Like now, I'm not just talking about like American Standard versus Professional Series or whatever. I'm talking about like they made a 50s Strat, you know, in Mexico with these pickups and this thing and called it one thing. And then later on, 4 or 5 years later, after that guitar got canceled, they made it again, you know, and under a different name.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, how many times, have they redone the 50s Stratocaster? And what was it? Remember oh crap. It was the inexpensive American series called the, oh crap, Highway 1? Was it Highway 1
the
series?
Highway 1s. Well, the Highway 1 was supposed to age. That was the whole point of that, because it was the predecessor to the Road Warren series. So when they canceled Highway 1, they came out with Road Warren. And the whole point of Highway 1 was that thin-skin nitrocellulose finish was you're supposed to be able to just wear the shit out of it. I've seen them beat to hell. The only problem I had with that line was the pickups were not as good as what you would get in, I don't know. They were better than the American Standard pickups, I think, in my opinion. I just don't think that they were right for that kind of guitar. They were almost like somewhere between the Big Dippers and the Texas Specials. So,
yeah. Well, sorry, folks.
Nice catch.
At least I'm muted. There have been a lot of different Stratocasters in the past. I've always liked the Deluxe series. I've always enjoyed that American Deluxe. But there's been a lot of talk about. I want to talk about that. So you and I both talked about the players, the modern player.
You talking about the Elite?
No, the modern player. And you went and tried some. You said you just didn't.
Oh, that's the new Mexican guitar, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I played 2 this weekend. Both of them had fret ends that were poking the shit out of me, which is something that I had not really experienced on prior Mexican guitars I played. I know it's a problem with them. Like, people have talked about it before. I felt that the pickups were better than what they were years ago. They're still not great. They were kind of wimpy. They didn't really have a whole lot of output for that style of pickup. The color combination of the one that I played the longest was green, and it was like a mint pickguard. I liked the way it looked, and I liked the way the neck felt. I just felt like there were some things that could have been done better on the guitar. The heel, the pocket was not that great. I didn't notice any finish flaws. I didn't look the guitar super hard over. Once I noticed that the frets were like really bad, sticking out the side, like more so than usual. Be honest with you, I played Squires recently that don't have any of that going on. So it's like, what's going on here? I figure what's happened is the guitar has been in the store is drier than the climate it was produced in. And so therefore, the fret ends are now poking out. That's the only thing I can think of. So,
possibility.
Well, and it was like, so it's a maple neck, but it's satin finish, which means more moisture can evaporate through the neck, kind of deal. So that's probably what's going on. But yeah. So Fender, make your necks in a very dry environment so that you can shave down the neck properly before you send them out.
I mean, obviously the American ones are made in California, right? They're still made in, where is it?
Corona.
Not Coronado. Corona. Yeah.
Yeah, and the place named after the beer. I'm sure the beer is named after the place. Come on.
I'm 100% sure of that. Yeah, so then you've also got the new Fender Limited Series, the standard Strat HSS. That was another one I looked at. I actually liked that guitar, but it's an HSS. And if I wind up keeping the Stratocaster, I kind of am looking for. You
already have a Strat loaded with humbuckers,
right?
There may be many humbuckers, but they're still humbuckers.
Right, but they're still humbuckers. Where I need a Strat that's loaded with Strat pickups.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wouldn't be against noiseless.
Right.
If I were going to buy a Strat today, I wouldn't buy anything except, I would start by looking at the, what's the top of the line one though? I can't remember. The Elite. I kept thinking Ultimate. I don't know why. I wouldn't look at anything other than the Elite because number one, it has all the things that I would get on it anyway. It has a compound neck, which I'm sorry in this day and age, Fender
Yeah.
should be offering pretty much every guitar that they make above $1,500 with a compound net radius.
Yeah.
9.5 inches for a lot of people is not adequate to get low action and not have the guitar fret out above the like 10th fret. I mean, my guitars right now, I would shoot for a 12-inch radius if possible, but if I have to make a compromise and they want to keep it feeling somewhat accurate, I would be fine with compound. I don't think so. They really killed it on the standards with the color choices. Although I feel like there could be more color choices. Granted, they have a huge line, so if you want a different color, you just get one of the other ones. I feel like if I was really in the market, though, I would probably go for like a custom shop, and it would have to be like a 60 or 61 custom shop reissue type deal.
Right.
But at this point, I mean, their custom shop guitars are like $3,000. And I can go get guitars from smaller builders that are every bit as good as their custom shop stuff for, a fraction of that price. It almost doesn't make sense anymore. Case in point, I can go get a Nash for $2,000, right? And Nash is basically like a roughed up Fender Strat with Lawler pickups in it, which in my opinion, Lawlers are better than what the Fender custom shop is. You can crucify me all day long. It's fine. I would be more happy with that than I would spending $3,000 on a guitar that has the Fender logo on the headstock. Yeah. That's my millennial sensibility. Because apparently we don't give a shit about logos and stuff. I don't know. That's what I've heard.
All of a sudden you don't care about logos?
Yeah, apparently
all of a sudden.
Apparently millennials don't care. They don't care about branding. They don't care about brand lineage. We just care about getting shipped for cheap, which I don't see how that's possible when we're living in the age of the iPhone and the Google Pixel. It like, you know what I mean? It's bullshit. The only time people care about branding is when it's something they're passionate about. And as far as I know, most of the people that are buying like thousands and thousands of dollars of gear a year are passionate about it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there are, and they care. I told you about the guitars place I'm rehearsing.
Yep.
When I asked why would the person buy all these guitars? Plain and simple. Put them away.
Collector.
Yep. Sell them later.
All right. Now I got a guitar, and people can look this one up on the internet, but I got a picture of it, and I'm going to pull it up on my phone. I may post it in the group later. It's not much to look at, but I wanted to point this out. I was having a conversation with Pat at Good Time. We're going to have him on the show soon. I talked to him about it this weekend. There's a guitar that he bought the other day. It's from a company called Custom Craft. You ever heard of Custom Craft, Jim? Okay. So Custom Craft was this like USA built brand in probably the 60s. It may be slightly early, just based on the way that this guitar actually looks. And I mean, this guitar has everything but the kitchen sink put into it in terms of like how they built it. It's got some sort of knife edge vibrato that's very similar to a Bigsby, which is weird because a Bigsby is not a knife edge. It has, at least to my knowledge, I don't have any experience with Bigsby, so I'm probably just running my mouth and saying things other than, playing around with them in the store. It's a bound neck. It has this crazy, like, it's almost like a pick guard on the headstock with a crest in it that's made out of metal and like a German carve around the headstock, and then it's bound, right? The whole guitar is bound. The neck is bound, the body is bound, the pick guard is bound. The pick guard is made of aluminum, and it is elevated off the body of this guitar, which is sort of like a 335, right? It's elevated off the body of this guitar by, a quarter of an inch or so. It's thick. It has like lightning bolt style F holes. And he bought this guitar because somebody brought it in, and he collects weird guitars. Like he told me, he said, I never wanted to become a collector, but he's like, I'd run across these weird pieces or people would bring him into the shop. And he's like, man, how cool is that? When you think about it, this guitar was probably had more effort put into the design of it than the things that actually took off and sold well from the major manufacturers like Gibson and Fender. Yet nobody even knows who they were. Like today, we just don't even know these brands. We know Kay, we know Airline, we know the Sears guitars, we know the Supro guitars, because those guitars were inexpensive alternatives to what Fender and Gibson were making. But there were these other companies that were kind of on the fringe, and I would argue even Rickenbacker was one of them, who produced excellent quality instruments, but just kind of got overlooked. And so now they're out there, but they don't go for a whole lot. So he says whenever he sees one of these like really weird pieces, he'll snap them up. But he's like, what gets crazy? And you get into some of the late 60s, early 70s Japanese stuff. He's like, you'll find guitars that have like 4 layers of binding. And like there's like 1 layer of ivory binding, and then on the inside there's like a layer of like tortoiseshell binding. And he's like, then there's, you know, more ivory, and then like something else, you know, bound on the inside. Like, and he's like, you know, the amount of time it took to actually do, and this is binding on an F hole, okay? And like the amount of time that it would spend to bind that, it just makes this guitar automatically like a loser, because for the guy that built it, or the company that built it, there's no way they were doing that automated. I mean, it was done by hand. And today we look at this stuff and we go, oh, it's just silly because that was a beginner's guitar back then. But then you look at it today, you're like, nobody builds anything like this now. No one. We have the tools and we have the technology to do this stuff cheaply, and no one's doing it. And so he's got 40 something guitars, and he says, I play a handful. He's like maybe 10. But he told me so this guitar has some missing binding. He's gonna have the binding done in the shop there, and then this will go home and go up on the wall with his collection of other odd assorted instruments. But yeah, I'm gonna start hyping Pat for the show. When Pat gets on here, it's gonna get real, people. We were having a conversation. What was more like a yelling discussion. Pat has a very outgoing personality, you might say. He's a lot like me in the regard that when he gets fired up, you're not going to stop him. So Jim and I will probably just ask a question and then sit back for 15 or 20 minutes when that happens. Because
kind of like what I do to David now.
Yeah, no, it's more like what I do to you.
What was that? What did I ask earlier today in our conversation?
I don't know.
I mentioned on our podcast stealing your idea.
Oh yeah,
I don't want to get specific.
Yeah, and then it's not even.
They're even using your guitar, and then you got fired.
Yeah, I was like, dude, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I'm like, they're not fucking ripping me off. Like, where the hell are you at, Jim? And I knew you were winding me up to ask my wife, because she told, like, we were talking about it, and she's like, what's Jim doing? And I'm like, he's just winding me up. I'm like, he's wanting to see how far he can push me before I get pissed.
Yep. That was pretty much it.
Yeah, it doesn't take much, Jim. Trust me.
No,
I'm in therapy for anger management. Just so everybody knows, I'm not kidding. That's why I'm in therapy right now.
Are you seriously in therapy for that?
Yes, dude. I'm in therapy for anger management. Yes, I am. Like, I'm not even afraid to admit it. What we're discovering is the things that make me very angry are the things I can't control. So, that, and I have a lot of problems with a lot of people in my life.
I can see that. Yeah,
I'm a zealot, and I'm the person that believes that we should be doing honorable things and trying to be honorable people. And so when I see somebody not being honorable, I'm in huge conflict with them, and then like it just stresses me out, and I end up wanting to kill people.
Yeah,
not really kill people, but I get very angry and
I know what you mean.
Throw things, and
you get upset.
Yeah. So yes. So now I have a happy place where I sit and I just calm down, and it's helping. It's helping. You wouldn't tell on this podcast, but it's helping.
That's always good.
Hey, Jim, I've never said anything to you out of anger. I sometimes that little voice in the back of my head is like, you should just fucking tell him this. And I'm like, just shut up, go away. Like, one of these days you're going to get a text message where it's just like, I fucking quit. And then you're going to be like, what the hell happened? It was the little voice in the back of my head. I don't really quit. He just said that.
Well, so I get used to it. I'm all right with that.
I'm not going to quit on you, Jim. Relax.
I know you're not.
Show listeners, I'm in this for the long haul. I might threaten to quit, but I'm not going to quit. I might say I quit, but I'll still show up.
Exactly.
That's
I'm not worried about you.
Hill family way. Believe me, this runs in the family. So it's the Hill family way.
Yep. I'm not worried about you running off on me.
No
way.
No, I can't.
Happen.
We're like handcuffed together, Jim.
Exactly.
Ugh.
And you're not
Psychic
gonna run away
handcuffs. Sounds like a Blue Oyster Cult song.
It sounds more like psychotic handcuffs, maybe.
What is that? What is the Blue Oyster Cult song about? Flaming telepaths?
Yeah.
I don't even want to know if that connotation in the title was like intended. At this point, I just don't want to know.
Yep. No, I don't either.
Like that.
I don't want to keep that to themselves.
For show listeners who haven't put this together yet, is it similar to the Black Sabbath song "Fairies with Boots On"?
Yeah, exactly. Fairies wear boots.
Yeah, is that what it is? Is that the actual title? Fairies wear boots.
Yeah, I think it's fairies wear boots or
fairies wear boots.
Kind of fairies
with boots on. You got to believe me. Yeah, okay.
Something about fairies and boots.
Yeah, whatever.
Let's see. I just know that I was never a big fan of that song.
Neither was I, and certainly not the message. But again, I grew up in a different time, and so
yeah, it was fairies wear boots.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's funny to listen to some of that esoteric stuff, and I say esoteric in like the nicest possible way, because you kind of look back and you go, "Well, that was an ass backwards idea, but this song's really good. Like, it's a well written song."
Well, so you think about Sabbath didn't really start out as a metal band, so to speak.
No, not at all. They created metal.
Yeah.
The genre I would put them in, I know people call them doom metal. I would put them into proto metal because they created the prototype. It was like them, Deep Purple, and Led Zeppelin were the three first metal bands.
Yeah, the grandfathers of metal. Where I always used to say when I would sing Neil Young, I would say the grandfather of punk. He was.
Yeah, in some ways. So there are some guys that, especially for punk music, who you would never think had like the punk rockest attitudes you'll ever find in music. Neil Young is one of them. I hate Neil Young, but you're right. The other one I think of is Peter Gabriel. And before you go crazy, because like obviously his 80s output is like not anything like that. But when he was in Genesis, he was the angriest fucking kid. Like, it was unbelievable how much anger he was channeling in his lyrics. And the way he sang sounded very much like the people that came out like right after him in punk music. And the album I think of is The Lamb Lies Down, where he does Back in New York City. He talks about his Molotov cocktails and like he's gonna burn the city to the ground, and he like goes around raping and pillaging basically. And that if they ain't anything more punk rock than that, it's.
Oh yeah, I mean, when you think about it, that predates the New York Dolls. It predates the Ramones.
Yeah, because that album came out in '74.
Yeah.
No, nobody listened to it, but it came out in '74.
You take like the hardcore fans of Fleetwood Mac, right? There are two kinds of Fleetwood Mac fans. The ones who like Fleetwood Mac post Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham, and pre Stevie Nicks.
You mean the Peter Green fans or whatever?
Yes. Well, Peter Green and who was the guy that Bob? He did the song "Your Eyes Got Me Running."
Yeah.
Ebony eyes. But Bob. Oh shit. Bob something or other. Anyway, I actually like that song. There is a definitive difference in the way bands. They used to call it the break when a band would get its big break, that was when it quote unquote broke the band.
Yeah.
People who liked Styx loved the old Styx, everything up to and including the Grand Illusion.
You're right.
Then it kind of went, well, now they've got money, got big production value.
Yeah, because you know what? Everybody hates the Mr. Roboto record.
Oh, geez, yes.
Okay, it's the concept of the record is terrible. Yeah. It's just stupid. But the songs and the actual like production is not bad. And I know people, I'm probably gonna get hate mail for saying that. But that's one of my favorite records they did. Now, granted, I still like Grand Illusion and the stuff prior to that.
Grand Illusion's got to be my favorite record, but of all of them, and it's probably one of the shortest.
Yeah,
even shorter than Crystal Ball.
It's a really, really short record. Crystal Ball's good too. But I'm just saying, I grew up on hearing that shit in TV commercials and stuff. So when I hear Mr. Roboto, like that album, yes, that song is so stupid. But the vocal hook, like if you put different lyrics to it, it would have been great.
Yeah.
But
yeah, the concept of it was kind of
just the stupid, lame. Like I'm going to put on a mask and all this. Like,
well,
it's been done before.
If you listen to him, by the way, folks, it was Bob Welch.
Bob Welch, yeah.
If you listen to the song and you try to think of the concept that of what what's the name Dennis DeYoung was trying to do. It was a completely different type of thing, right?
Theater rock.
Yeah, it was. He had a concept, and the concept was that music was being pumped out by people who said, "Okay, good hook here, insert good vocal thing here, insert this here, and insert this here." I mean, yeah, it had been done before by just about. I mean, Pink Floyd did it with "Welcome to the Machine." I mean, we had we could go back to what was the Who was it Quadrophenia?
Multiple albums were like that.
Where they talked about
even Who's Next, but Who's Next was out of order and missing a couple of songs.
Yeah. Because Quadrophenia was a mess too because of how they.
I love Quadrophenia, but it was the way that they chopped it up and stuff because they had it was on multiple records, and then.
Well, I say it's a mess only because Pete Townsend had a completely different view. Yeah, I think we would have seen a completely different album had Pete Townsend had a little more control, but he was starting to lose control himself.
Well, and Tommy was also the rock opera thing. And,
I love Tommy.
And a lot of other bands have done. I mean, Genesis did it. That's why I was talking about Lamb Lies Down. It's a double album that's a concept album.
Yeah.
So,
Pink Floyd.
Yeah, I mean, and all these groups are in some way theater rock in the sense that when you go to see them, they have like a stage show that incorporates elements of the music into what they're doing, and some more than others. So
Iron Maiden did that. They were incredibly theatric when you would go to see them. Didn't matter which album you went to see. The tours after Bruce Dickinson joined from 666 Number the Beast on, incredible.
Yeah, big walking robots and all other sorts of craziness. I mean, you got Pink Floyd actually building a goddamn wall on stage.
Oh that was all with cardboard that had to be broken down and then folded up and put into a trailer to go to the next place, which is why they would do like 4 shows in Madison Square Gardens or whatever. Yeah.
I don't know.
What I was trying to get at is bands would once they hit a certain point, they would become a different band. You look at Foreigner. Foreigner was really rough and raw, and then you had Foreigner 4, and then it all went to like post-productive nonsense.
Yep.
Journey had their big thing, and nothing wrong with I think their songs are timeless, but still. Once they had that big, what is it, Escape? Was it Escape first?
Yeah, I think so. But they had a bunch of albums before that, like a bunch, like 8 or 10. I mean, it's just nuts. And and you won't recognize, if you've never listened to Journey and like listened to those records, you won't recognize probably 50% of their material.
Well, the people who like Tusk won't go back in the um, Fleetwood Mac archives and like the stuff that came out before that.
Yeah.
They're just not going to like it.
Yeah, well, you're talking about them having that distinct dividing line. I think that has a lot to do with the fact that Rumors was so popular and so different to what had come before it that, I mean, they were, with Peter Green, they were basically a blues band. I mean,
Right.
and then as soon as Lindsey Buckingham comes in and starts like inflecting with all the folk, and yes, obviously that's partially Stevie Nicks thing too. That's when the band changes, and I think that's when for a lot of people, like that's Fleetwood Mac to them.
Right. You had Fleetwood Mac, had Bear Trees, play on.
But their situation's really unique in the sense that they almost changed genres when they brought in new people. It wasn't like they were still trying to accomplish the same things. Case in point, Dream Theater, right? They lost the guy that basically organized that band and was responsible for a lot of the promotion efforts, Mike Portnoy, several years ago. And when he left, Mangini came in to fill in his shoes, and everybody thought there was going to be like this whole genre change that happened there because Mangini is a straight up metal drummer. Like he's a metal madman. And it didn't happen. And I think that's really interesting. And it just tells you like how writing works in that band to an extent, because the new guy didn't really get the put your wings on and let's do what you want to do kind of treatment. So
yeah. Who else were we talking about? Oh, Journey. Journey was a jam band.
Yeah.
And most of it didn't have lyrics. And what lyrics they did have, the previous keyboard player and the drummer sang. So it was a completely different group. Styx did not have Tommy Shaw.
It came out in 1975. And if you want to know what it sounds like, just listen to Carlos Santana.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it because that was their band.
Yeah.
It was half of it.
Yeah, it is. It's Greg Raleigh, Neil Schoen.
Yep. They pulled half the melodic part of the
Dunbar. Yeah. And then, it's almost, and it's funny thing is because so that happens in 1975. Santana records like two other albums that are really good, and then basically goes into semi-retirement in terms of putting together material that is like exceptional until Supernatural in like 1998 or 99. Can you imagine having like a 20-year dry spell like that and then come out with Supernatural, which is one of the biggest records of all time?
I know. It's so weird. And then he had that other hit on the next album with was it Norah Jones?
Yeah. I think that's Supernatural 2.
Was that on Supernatural? Yeah. Well, let's do Supernatural. It worked once. Let's just come out with Supernatural.
Clive Davis is like, let's do it again.
Exactly. So, yeah, it's kind of weird stuff. So anyway, single coil Stratocaster style guitars. Let's try to get back on focus here. We talked a lot about those. We're at 117. I guess we kind of
no, we can keep going. We're only at 113, Jim.
113. Okay. Yeah. If you're looking, I'm not a big I haven't been a big single coil guy. But there's obviously an element of why people love single coil guitars. What is it that draws you? Because you are a Strat guy. It's not just the single coil. It's the whole S style.
Yeah, it's the whole thing.
And you just got this Ibanez in the mail. What is
it's not in yet.
Oh, it's not in yet?
No, it doesn't come until Tuesday.
Oh, okay. So I thought you got it.
No, not until Tuesday.
Oh,
okay. What is it about the Strat? What is it about the single coil? Well, number one, I've always struggled to get good clean tones out of a humbucker. I've always felt like they don't have the glassiness that you get from a Strat pickup. They don't have the sparkle that you get from a Strat pickup. And that is really the core reason why I've gravitated towards them over the years. My love for fuzz actually comes from my love for the Strat, not vice versa. because I think the Stratocaster and the way the pickups are set up, the design of the pickups, the way that you have the switching arrangement and all that allows you to do some unique things with certain types of effects like that lends itself to them. So, for example, they're a relatively low output pickup. You're going to find them anywhere from 5K up to 8K. If you get some super hot wound ones, you can go, through the stratosphere with that. But in general, like your off the shelf Strat stock pickups are not going to be super hot. And I think that's what indents them to fuzz. They don't, like, if you take a really hot pickup and you throw it in front of a fuzz pedal, it's not going to sound right. So I think that it worked the other way because I was always a distortion, like overdrive guy. I didn't get into overdrive really until I'd been playing like 10 to 12 years. It just didn't do anything for me. There was partially because I was always looking for more saturation. Like many young guitar players, my whole thing was, how do I get that liquid sustain? Now I'm running the opposite direction. How do I get clarity and distance between notes? And that's why I'm looking at overdrive pedals. I'm looking for boosts and things like that now, which is totally different. And it all comes from the fact that the Strat has actually influenced my playing. So there's this whole feedback loop that happens. You as a player play the guitar, right? And then based on the sound of the guitar and what it's capable of doing, you will favor certain things. And I've heard Steve Vai talk about the same thing. Like when you're a guitar player starting out and you play a Les Paul, you're going to play different music than somebody who's a Strat player, just based on the sheer sonics of what the guitar sounds good doing. And it's almost a subconscious thing because you don't even realize you're doing it. For me, once I realized that I could be extremely rhythmic with it and I could do all that raking and stuff and it gets this really percussive thing going on. I have not found a guitar as percussive as a Stratocaster. And I know people will tell you that a Tele can do it too. I can make a Stratocaster so chunky when I'm playing rhythm stuff that it's just stupid. It's just it all comes down to knowing how that bridge works. I think there's also a relationship that happens between where you pick, and I've noticed that certain Strat players, I've noticed the Strat players tend to pick between the middle and the neck pickup more than the bridge and the middle pickup. I'm actually more of a bridge middle guy myself, but the guys that are really famous for it, they're moving their pick around to get different dynamics in what they're doing. If you want to see a guy who's a master at it, Stevie Ray Vaughan does it all the time. And I think that's more responsible for a sound than people realize. He'll pick over the neck, and he does it all the time.
He'll literally go over that last fret.
And it has to do with the harmonics that come out of the string by doing that. Now, you have to be careful when you're doing that. You can't pick as hard as he did. I don't know how the fuck he got away with it. And I think a lot of that's raking when he's doing it. Because if the string, like let's say you pick at the 21st fret, right? What happens is the string just going to go boing as far as it can. I'm making a very wide motion with my hand across the pickup magnet and across the fret, and you're going to get buzz. And it's almost going to be like doing a pop, where you pull the string up and let it slap against the fretboard.
Yeah.
But it'll be on a lateral way. And I think those kinds of things come from the fact that you gravitate towards one instrument or another. There's probably, there's like a feedback loop. So if you don't jive well with what the guitar is telling you to do, and you don't just suddenly get it, then you're going to gravitate towards another guitar. And I think that's the way it works for a lot of people. The Strat does that for me. And it really just comes down to, I actually probably should point this out. When I first got a Strat, I wanted a professional level guitar. And that was the way I looked at it. I didn't care if it was a Les Paul. I didn't care if it was a Stratocaster. I didn't care if it was a Yamaha. I didn't care what the hell it was. But I ended up with a Strat. I actually didn't like the sound of it. I modified it. And then as time went on, I gravitated towards it. And it was like, this is what I have, so I need to learn how to use it properly. And as I started exploring it more and more, I started to realize I can do this. And I actually really like the sound of it. I don't think a Strat's a guitar that the first time you pick it up, you play it, you're going to get pretty sounds out of it. It's going to be pretty ugly. It takes some time to coax good sounds from a Stratocaster. It really does. I think there are a lot of other guitars out there that you can just pick them up and play them right off the rack, and they're going to sound really good. Les Pauls are a good example. SGs are a good example. Really, any of the Gibson guitars are going to sound fairly decent right off the rack. Stratocaster, the Telecaster probably even is easier, to be honest with you, because nobody picks up a Tele not expecting to get some twang out of it. But a Stratocaster, all your heroes who play Strats, you'll sound nothing like them. You won't. When you first pick it up, you will sound nothing like them because there's so much technique stuff that you have to learn how to do, and just learn by listening and realizing, there's too much trouble here, so I got to adjust where I'm picking, and it's just you get it intuitively later. It takes a long time to learn to do it, though. As we come to a close, the one thing I'd like to maybe leave people with is when you're playing, what is your picking style? I've noticed that because I do try to video myself and then look back and say, okay, where have I been working? I do tend to go back and forth, but only between the two pickups. Like if I had a 3 pickup guitar, and I think that's the one reason I don't play a Strat much, is I tend to be in between those two. And so I kind of need that room. The other thing you're going to find that's real weird is that Strat players tend to have a much more narrow path of where they pick too. Whereas like if you have to think about a humbucker guitar, your distance between your strings or between your pickups is like 4 inches or 5 inches.
Huge.
And Strat players rarely deviate more than an inch or two, unless there's somebody like Stevie Ray who's like using all these different positions to do different things. But I mean, even like Mark Knopfler, and he uses claw hammer style. He has a very preferred position for his hand or his elbow to be anchored against the contour and where his hand sits. So. Yeah,
I've noticed that there are a lot of Strat players that I used to watch. I don't know about now, who play with a more when they're playing solos. It's almost an anchored position.
Yep. That's
and
how
I've
I am.
seen a lot of the pinky anchors too.
That's how I am. Be careful with that though, because if you're hooking onto your volume knob, you will screw up the volume while you're playing.
Yeah.
It will happen. It happens all the time to me. So I've actually gotten really good at not doing it, but I'd like to put my pinky over the volume knob in that area of the guitar because it does give me an anchor. I know that I've been reading in various like manuals and stuff that people say don't do that. Look, do what works for you.
That's right.
So
I don't anchor, but that's because I was brought up not to. So I tend to play with a more closed hand, but that makes it harder to do this.
It's harder to do a lot of things.
Yeah, when you've got it closed off. So I've been trying to get it a little more, open. But you can. There's downsides to both.
Yeah, sure.
Definitely downsides to both.
All right. Well, we are at 1 hour and 23 minutes, so we're going to call this episode. I have been David.
And I have been Jim.
And we have been the Bickering Practical Guitarists.
Yes, very much so. Bickering.